Chapter 1. 130, 7th year, Castor. It was easiest not to think, for the next few minutes at least. Remus did not slow down or tire as quickly as usual. Even his hip had stopped hurting. Despite the wheedling guilt he had to keep at bay, he had not felt so good in months. The scent grew stronger as the woods grew thicker and a shade of darkness fell, casting strange shadows which seemed to move in the corners of Remus's eyes. He didn't think. It was too late to think. He was too far gone.
Bloody hell.
A voice in his head popped out of nowhere.
When you go for it, you really go for it, don't you, sweetheart?
Grant Remus didn't want to do this now. Shut up, he willed his brain.
Oh, charming.
Grant's voice cackled.
Here I am, only trying to help. Don't I always try to help?
I don't need help.
If you didn't, I wouldn't be here.
Grant's voice countered.
I could be someone else if you prefer. Lots of sensible people to choose from. I've got Ferox here. Want to chat with him? Or Lily, though she's a bit whingy if you ask me. Dumbledore? Nah, bit of a prick. Ooh, how about your posh boy? Eh, Mooney?
Shut up,
Remus repeated, walking faster, breathing harder.
Yeah.
Grant's voice agreed, slyly.
I can see why you wouldn't want to talk to him after what you just done.
I had to.
Remus insisted.
None of you would understand.
Well, they won't now, you lunatic.
Remus ignored the voice. There was no time for this. He would just have to deal with the consequences later. He knew there was no coming back from it now. Not really.
Hope you like the woods, Remus.
Grant was whispering now.
'Cause no one's going to want you back in civilization after that mess.
Shut up, shut up, shut up. Remus raged inside his head, like a mad person, like someone deranged. Perhaps it had been a mistake, to go alone. Perhaps he really had lost it, and his friends were only trying to keep him safe. No, he caught the scent again, and it stirred up his insides so much that he felt as though he was being propelled by it, dragged forward, unable to resist. It was a feeling he had only ever associated with transformation before, and he had no more control over it in his human form than the wolf did. It was him, the other wolf, somewhere out there. Remus had to find him, or else, well, he wasn't sure, but it wasn't even worth considering. Something moved, just ahead, and Remus froze. The different scents of the forest began to pile up. He had to concentrate to identify and categorize each one. There was magic, and there was a different kind. It wasn't the wolf. It was female, or feminine, at least, and not lupine at all. He walked towards it, confused. It was very close, but he couldn't see anything. He found himself in a grove of silver birches, spindly, ghostly white trees with papery bark that glowed in the darkness of the woods. The scent was strong, but still nothing, and he had lost the wolf's trail. Impatient, Remus pulled out his wand and cast a revealing spell.
Aparecium.
His wand seemed to jump in his hand. The force of the magic was so strong. An anguished wail filled the air, and the tree closest to Remus was no longer a tree, but a young woman, a dryad. She was beautiful, in her own way, slender and tall as the trees she guarded. Her skin glowed as white as silver bark, and her hair rustled with brittle, wintry leaves. She rounded on him, baring sharp yellow teeth, and he staggered back, shocked and amazed.
Go away, nasty thing!
She hissed, eyes narrowing. They were the colour of new spring leaves, unnaturally bright and fierce.
I dealt with the other. I'll deal with you too.
Which other?
The other half-beast.
She glowered. The dryad was at least a head taller than him and advanced at a steady pace, roots unfurling from the soles of her feet and winding towards him. As dreadful and fearsome as she was, Remus had to stay focused on his goal.
I'm looking for him, the other. I mean, you no harm, or your, trees.
Wizards do not belong here.
She continued to scowl.
Even half-beast wizards. Get out!
I will, as soon as I've...
Nasty, cruel, wicked creatures. Foul, unnatural. Don't belong. Too dangerous.
It's not a full moon,
He insisted.
I'm not going to transform, I swear.
Not wolf!
She rasped, very close to him now, ivy and nettles winding their way towards him, covering his shoes.
Wizard, wolf is welcome. Wolf is natural.
Oh.
Remus didn't have a response to that, and the vines were tickling his ankles now, stinging him as they tightened. He still had his wand. He still had every curse he'd spent the last 2 weeks practicing. But now that the time had come to use them, Remus's conscience pricked. The dryad was only doing what she was supposed to do, guarding her trees.
Please.
Remus said, holding his hands up, hoping he looked deferential.
I promise I won't hurt you or anyone. I just need to find the other wolf. Then I'll go, I really will.
Lying, false-tongued, dirty.
I swear.
And the little one.
What? Who?
Close up, he could see that her face was not smooth, like human skin, but finely lined and cracking, like bark, coal black beneath the tissue-thin outer layer. She gave another harsh wail and raised her hand. Remus flinched, but she didn't touch him. Instead, there was a violent shaking inside of his robe pocket, and Wormtail came flying out, falling to the mulchy ground below with a soft pat. Shit, Remus thought. Bloody Peter. The Dryad raised her arm again, and Peter transformed into his human shape, trembling and cowering on the ground.
Please, please don't hurt me.
He whimpered, covering his face. Remus stepped in front of him, quickly. Of all the people to have at your side in a situation like this.
Liar!
The Dryad hissed again triumphantly, leafy hair bristling.
Deceitful, filthy wizards!
She was raising both arms now, and her eyes had darkened to the colour of pine needles. Remus was now completely sure that she meant them serious harm. Every one of her pointed little teeth was showing. He couldn't disarm her. She didn't have a wand. He wasn't even sure if the usual defensive spells would work on her. Remus had just decided to use a knockback jinx to buy himself some time, when...
Confringo.
Peter squeaked from behind him, pointing his stubby little wand over Remus's shoulder. Oh, Jesus Christ, Remus thought, as he ducked, reflexively. Fortunately, Peter was either so frightened or just inept that the blasting curse didn't have its usual devastating effect. Still, it was enough to cause some serious damage to the trees behind the Dryad, setting a few leaves on fire. She screamed, a heart-wrenching, painful screech, and turned immediately to tend to the smoking branches. Peter and Remus took their chance and ran, vines snapping as they tore their feet from the ground. Peter followed Remus, but neither of them were especially fast runners, and by the time they judged it safe to stop, they were both wheezing heavily.
Bloody hell, Pete.
Remus panted, bending forward, one arm against an oak for support.
I didn't know what to do.
Peter replied, red-faced, pale hair plastered to his forehead.
Let's go back, Remus, please.
He looked around anxiously. They were even deeper in the woods now, and other than their own laboured breathing, it was deathly quiet. Still, Remus shook his head, straightening up.
No,
He said.
I have to find them. She hurt him.
So what?
Peter replied, indignant.
We're not supposed to be here.
Look, I'm sorry you got caught up in this.
Remus frowned, impatiently. Now that they weren't in immediate danger, his desire to hunt the other wolf down had returned. He could smell blood. He was sure of it.
But I have to. You can go back if you want. Go and find the others.
Peter looked behind him, then back at Remus, his eyes big and shimmering.
On my own?
The tremor in his voice was palpable, and Remus suddenly wanted him gone more than anything in the world, in case the terror was catching.
I'll give you my watch, so you don't get lost.
Remus offered.
No,
Peter stiffened his lips.
I'll come with you.
Pete's heartbeat was almost deafening, and Remus was starting to feel sorry for him.
It's okay.
He whispered.
If something happens, you can just transform back and go and tell the others, can't you? You'll know the way better, as a rat.
I won't leave you, Remus.
Peter whispered, shakily.
I can be brave. I know I can.
Remus squeezed his shoulder.
Fine. This way. Keep as quiet as you can.
The Dryad had not come after them, thank goodness. Remus couldn't remember everything about tree guardians, but he was fairly sure they couldn't leave their groves. Or maybe that was naiads. He couldn't remember the difference. But it didn't matter now. He'd picked up the scent properly. A mouth-watering, rich, iron tang that made his stomach growl shamefully. They were still days out from the full moon, but that didn't seem to matter to the wolf inside Remus, who was scaling the walls of its prison, howling for freedom.
It's close.
Remus whispered to Peter as they pressed through a heavy thicket, probably announcing their arrival to every creature nearby. There was another heartbeat, not very far away, and that sounded frightened too. A few steps more and Remus could hear laboured breathing, like someone who had been struggling for a while now and was beginning to tire. Closer still, and he could smell the sweat, and the rage from this struggle. It was such a strong mix of emotions and energy that Remus was momentarily lost in the fog of it, too overwhelmed to see a clear direction. Then it changed, stilled, suddenly. A harsh voice rang out, shattering the quiet of the woods, shaking birds from their nests.
Remus Lupin.
Peter gave out a sharp squeak of terror before leaping a foot in the air, transforming and turning tail, scampering away from Remus. No matter, Remus stood taller.
I'm here.
He whispered back.
Come to me.
That tugging sensation returned to Remus's chest, and he followed it, letting himself be drawn forward through to a small clearing of trees. At its centre was an ancient yew, gnarled and creaking, and bound to the trunk was a young man. The dryad had him tied in place with miles of cruel, twisted bramble. The thorns were cutting into his worn leather cloak and puncturing the skin of his neck. His arms were at his sides, and despite obvious attempts to free himself, the brown, sinewy stems held firm. He wasn't struggling now, though. He was just staring at Remus, head bent forward, eyes dark and inscrutable. His head was shaved, as Livia's had been, and his clothes were weather-worn and threadbare. But there the resemblance ended. He was tall as Remus, and perhaps only a few years older. His skin was as dark as tanned leather, his features handsome and striking. He smiled, slowly, showing rows of straight white teeth.
Remus Lupin, set me free.
Who are you?
Remus held back, gripping his wand inside his pocket.
I am Castor. Set me free. I am your brother.
Remus cocked his head. This man was trapped, utterly at Remus's mercy. He felt his courage returning.
My brother, are you? Greyback send you?
Yes.
Well.
Remus leaned against the nearest tree and folded his arms.
You're going to have to give me a decent reason to set you free then, aren't you?
Castor roared, furiously, fighting against his bonds once more, tearing his clothes and driving the thorns deeper into his neck. He was clearly very strong, with a broad build, thick biceps flexing against the vines.
Oh dear.
Remus tutted, conversationally.
Looks like you're not going anywhere without me.
He would later wonder where this ridiculous sense of cockiness had come from. After all, the situation Remus now found himself in was every bit as dangerous as the attack on Diagon Alley, which had turned his mind inside out. Perhaps it was the woods and the power he could feel coursing through him. Perhaps it was Grant's voice, still ringing in his ears. Perhaps it was simply the familiarity of the situation. Remus had been facing off against bullies who thought they had him figured out since he was 6 years old.
So?
He said, smiling.
Want to talk?
I was sent to talk.
Really? Just talk?
Just talk. Set me free.
Remus played with the tip of his wand, thoughtfully, as if he hadn't a care in the world.
See? I've got a bit of a problem believing you, Castor, mate. Seeing as the last time Greyback sent someone to just talk to me, an innocent woman ended up dead.
My father recognizes his mistake in sending Livia.
The werewolf said, earnestly. He had calmed down a bit now, and was clearly watching Remus to see where this was going.
So this time he has sent me.
I can see right through that too, you know.
Remus mused.
Thought a good-looking bloke might, pique my interest, did he?
Castor kept staring at him, eyes narrowing. Remus shrugged and continued.
I mean, I'm flattered, Castor, don't get me wrong. I'm sure you're lovely, but I'm still not interested. And I have to say, so far I'm not very impressed. Not as good at magic as your pal Livia, then. She'd have evaporated right out of that. No trouble.
That tree bitch.
Castor snarled, struggling again.
Whatever she's done, these vines, I can't use magic.
Oh, I see.
Remus nodded.
Well, must remember to thank her next time I see her.
Livia told me about you.
Castor said.
She said you're Dumbledore's pet hound, toothless. Wouldn't hurt a fly, wouldn't chase a rabbit on a full moon.
I'm nobody's pet.
Remus replied, his jaw clenching.
And nor should you be. What's so great about Greyback, eh? What do you lot think's going to happen to you when we defeat Voldemort?
The same thing that always happens to our kind.
Castor replied, giving Remus a pitying look.
We will be hunted and oppressed.
Don't you want to change that?
Remus implored, taking a step forward.
Don't you have a family in the real world? Don't you want a family one day?
We are a pack. We are everything.
Remus sighed.
You don't understand. He's lying to you. I know there's a way to make things better, to really change the way we're treated, but it can't be like this, don't you see?
Castor sneered at him disdainfully.
Just as Livia said. Toothless. Told father you weren't ready. Told him it was too soon.
Too soon for what?
For the big night, of course.
Castor was smiling again, a sinister grin which made Remus feel queasy. The werewolf continued, recognizing Remus's uncertainty.
On the night of the next moon, the pack will be on the hunt. It will be a hunt such as the world has not seen since the Dark Ages.
Why are you telling me this?
There was a quaver on Remus's voice now, as much as he tried to disguise it.
You know I'm going straight to Dumbledore.
Castor laughed, a breathless, hollow sound coming from deep in his chest.
Perfect.
Remus winced as the air around them shimmered slightly, and he staggered back from the figure who had appeared between them in the clearing. She hissed, low under her breath, steely eyes flicking from Remus to Castor. Livia.
Sister.
Castor rasped, straining for freedom once more.
Release me.
You have failed our father.
She replied.
Punishment awaits.
No.
Castor protested.
It was the Dryad. I could not.
Livia raised a hand, and Castor was silenced, unable to move or make a sound. Remus's insides froze as she turned on him.
Hello, my love. Are you ready?
Remus pulled his wand out and pointed it at her, assuming a dueling stance and rooting himself to the ground. She would not hold him this time. This time he knew what to expect.
I'm not going anywhere, Livia.
There isn't time for this. The moon approaches.
She tutted, walking towards him, as ragged and filthy and wild as he remembered her.
Drop that silly stick.
She raised a hand and twisted it mid-air, as if she was turning a doorknob. Remus felt the strength of it, prying his fingers apart, his wand burning in his hand. But this time, he did not drop it. He clenched his teeth and gathered every ounce of magic from the woods around him.
No.
Remus Lupin,
She growled.
you will come with us.
She raised both arms now and flicked her fingers so that they fanned out from her palms. The trees surrounding Remus caught light in an instant, from trunk to branches, blazing columns of fire roaring around him. He was terrified, but he was not letting go.
No.
He repeated, stepping backwards, slowly. He would run if he had to. Let the dryads deal with them. Let the centaurs do it. Come to that. You didn't just show up in a forest like this and start burning it down. Livia snapped her fingers then, and at once Castor was freed from his bondage, gasping and snarling. He joined his packmate, and now there were two of them, their eyes glowing like hot coals, reflecting back the flames surrounding them.
The time has come, Remus Lupin.
The time has come, Remus Lupin.
They said in unison as black smoke began to fill the air, the scent of sap and pine fizzling around them.
No.
He said again, though he could see no way out now.
Mordeo!
He shouted, aiming his wand at them as he backed away. Castor recoiled, growling, but Livia laughed throatily and waved her hand again, dismissing the curse as if it was no more than a cobweb. This was it. They were going to take him, God knows where, and make him one of them. He would never see his friends again, never see Sirius again. He had been such an idiot, forcing them to stay behind. Now, there was nobody left to protect him. There's you. Remus didn't recognize this voice. It wasn't Grant's, or anyone he'd spoken to before, but maybe it was right. There was a spell he hadn't considered, simply because he had never mastered it properly. But he was in dire straits now, and he had more power than ever before at his disposal. As bright embers and burning leaves rained down on the three of them, Remus gathered all of his resources, his strength and his rage, and every joy in his heart. He would have to be ready to run as soon as the incantation was spoken. If it failed, he would have no time at all to make his escape. He breathed in carefully, and just before he cast the spell, recalled Sirius's eyes, and Sirius's mouth, and Sirius grinning.
I'm mental about you.
Expecto Patronum,
He practically screamed it, extending his arm, directing his wand as an enormous silver animal burst forth, leaping towards Livia and Castor, huge jaws wide, claws bared. In the split second before he began to run, Remus saw them both cover their eyes and turn to run in the opposite direction as the great beast lunged at them. But there wasn't time to stay and enjoy his success, so he didn't. He ran again, for the edge of the woods, back to Hogsmeade and the wizarding world, and his friends. Remus ran so hard that his legs were burning, and the pain in his hip was like a spear in his side, but he did not stop. Lungs full of wood smoke and eyes watering, he just kept going until the trees began to thin and the light grew stronger. Peter and Sirius were still there. Sirius was pacing erratically back and forth on the footpath. Peter was sitting on the ground with his knees drawn up, staring at the woods. He looked as though he had been crying. Remus staggered out into the daylight and felt ready to collapse right there. Peter stood up, wiping his eyes in disbelief, and Sirius ran towards him and then stopped, suddenly, and was knocked back, as though he'd hit a wall. Furious, he gave out an angry grunt. Remus allowed one of the knots inside him to unravel, and the barrier was lifted. He limped towards his two friends, wheezing.
Sorry,
he murmured. Much to his surprise, Sirius threw his arms around his neck and held him tightly. His heartbeat thrummed against Remus's, and he hugged him back, exhausted and grateful.
We couldn't come and help,
Sirius said, his voice hoarse and hollow.
Whatever you did, we couldn't follow you.
I'm sorry,
Remus said again.
I'm so sorry, Remus.
Peter suddenly burst out, his eyes filling with tears again.
I'm so sorry.
It's okay.
Remus reached out an arm to pat his shoulder, but Sirius wouldn't let him go yet. Finally, Remus came back to his senses and gently untangled himself.
I have to see Dumbledore right now. Where are the others?
They had to go back.
Sirius explained.
Curfew. They said they'd tell McGonagall.
Good.
Remus nodded.
Come on, we have to go now.
He began to hobble towards the village.
Moony, are you okay?
Sirius hurried alongside him, an arm under his shoulder for support.
Just tired,
Remus said.
You're covered in... Is that soot?
There was a fire.
Wormtail said something was summoning you.
I can't explain it yet. Please don't ask me.
Fine.
There was a cold edge to Sirius's voice which Remus didn't like, but he kept supporting him, and he kept going, so it would have to be ignored for now. One thing at a time. McGonagall was waiting for them at the school gates, her arms folded, deep lines creasing her forehead.
Professor,
Remus spluttered, still coughing up smoke.
I'm sorry we missed the curfew, but I need to see the headmaster right.
Yes, of course, Lupin. Come with me.
McGonagall nodded, quickly, and took his arm from Sirius. She peered down at Sirius and Peter.
You two go to the tower and say nothing. I don't want any arguments. Do you hear me?
The two young men were so surprised by these sharp instructions that they both nodded and left immediately, Sirius throwing one glance back at Remus. He told Dumbledore almost everything. He told him about the scent and the Dryad and Castor, about the fire and the plans Greyback had for his pack, and Livia. He did not mention the barrier he had somehow conjured to keep his friends back. Nor did he explain that he had known how dangerous it would be, or that he had ignored every ounce of good sense he had in order to pursue Castor. Dumbledore seemed very pleased, nonetheless.
Everything you have told me is immensely useful, Remus,
the old man said, smiling across his desk at Remus with eyes twinkling with pride for the first time Remus could remember.
You were very brave and fulfilled your task admirably.
I did, even though I went in the Forbidden Forest.
You followed your quarry, and I don't see that any harm has come to you. You are clearly a formidable wizard like your father.
Remus felt a very small twinge of pleasure at that, which put him more at ease.
This attack, though, the hunt they're planning.
Let the Order deal with that.
Dumbledore shook his head, placing his hands on his desk and rising to his feet.
You have done quite enough, more than anyone could expect of a 17-year-old wizard.
Yes, but if I can.
I am sorry I asked this of you, Remus.
Dumbledore came around his desk and placed a friendly hand on his shoulder.
I hope I will not have to ask again.
I'm on your side,
Remus replied, feeling he ought to reiterate this.
I'll do what has to be done.
Dumbledore's eyes glittered with triumph, and his grip tightened on Remus's shoulder. The fire had been put out by the Naiads, according to McGonagall, who walked him from Dumbledore's office to the infirmary. There had been no trace of Livia or Castor, and it was assumed they had apparated. Madame Pomfrey tutted over him, cleaned off the soot, and administered a pain-killing draught. By then he was breathing normally again, and perversely quite fancied a cigarette, though he didn't tell her that. Food was brought to him there, because by this time he had missed dinner, and he ate a pleasant, quiet supper in Madame Pomfrey's homely little office. Thankfully, he was permitted to walk back to Gryffindor Tower alone. His friends were all waiting, not in their usual place by the fire, but in a quieter corner near one of the far windows. They were all speaking in serious, hushed tones, and their heads turned at once to face him as he appeared through the portrait hole. He walked over, a bit woozy from the draught he'd taken, and they made room for him to sit in the window seat, squashed between Lily and Sirius, who quickly squeezed his hand before letting go. They all stared at him and waited for him to speak, so he did. He told them as much as he could, and a few things he hadn't said to Dumbledore. Peter had luckily already covered the Dryad, and apparently the Marauders had spent much of their evening explaining the Animagus secret to Lily. Still, she covered her mouth in horror when Remus talked about encountering Castor and Livia's incredible powers and the fire. Sirius was practically quaking with rage beside him, but held his tongue the whole time and let Remus finish.
Bloody hell,
James said, once the story was told.
Well done on the Patronus, though, mate.
Thanks.
Remus blushed slightly. Trust James to find something praiseworthy in all of that.
Did you see what it was?
No.
He said quickly.
It happened too fast.
Not long afterwards, they all trailed up to bed, one at a time, each of them with their faces set in a determined mask. Remus realized that he was not the only one who had had a very trying day. He took a quick shower to get the last of the forest off him and brushed his teeth without looking in the mirror, too afraid of what he might see there. Sirius still hadn't tried to talk to him or confront him about the terrible betrayal back at the forest edge, but Remus was certain this was yet to come, and though he knew it would be hard, he looked forward to clearing the air. For hours he lay in bed, waiting and hoping. Sirius always came to him on a night like this, if something had happened. Sirius always knew when Remus needed to talk. Even when Remus didn't want to, Sirius could get it out of him and make everything right again. Remus waited for a long time. Come on, he thought to himself. I need you. Where are you?
He ain't a mind reader, sweetheart.
Grant's chirpy voice broke through once more. He knows me, though.
Oh yeah? You ever told him?
Remus declined to answer because it was no longer necessary. Working through problems in your head using imaginary role-play was all well and good. But that's what he'd done when he'd felt most alone. When he thought he'd had no one else to turn to. He realized with a sickening sense of shame just how stupid he'd been. Without wasting another moment, he slid out of bed and crossed the floor. He parted Sirius's bed curtains and whispered into the darkness.
Sirius.
What?
Sirius was lying on his back too, hands folded over his middle like a tombstone effigy. His coldness made Remus flinch, but he swallowed his pride.
I need you.
Sirius turned his head at once. He sighed and pulled back the covers.
Get in.
Remus scrambled inside eagerly. They lay next to each other, on their sides, staring at each other.
Do you hate me?
Remus asked.
No.
Sirius replied, voice still empty.
I'm really sorry. I wanted to protect you all.
I know. That's what James said.
Sirius's voice had melted slightly and was now more petulant than angry.
But it's no excuse.
Remus continued.
I wasn't myself. Do you understand?
Sirius shrugged, moving the bedsheets so that they slid off his shoulder, exposing his collarbone. Remus tried not to get too distracted by that and licked his lips, meeting Sirius's eye again.
I'll tell you everything,
he said.
You told us.
Sirius replied, tetchily.
Not everything.
Remus replied,
There are things I don't want everyone to know about. But I want you to know, if that's okay.
Sirius stared at him as if he couldn't believe his ears. A small smile was creeping onto his face, and he was obviously trying to suppress it.
Go on, then.
So he did. He told him every feeling he had had, the irresistible pull into the forest, the rugged power of natural magic, the terrible guilt. By the time he had stopped speaking, he realized that Sirius had reached out to him and was stroking his arm, gently, back and forth to comfort him.
What made you think of casting a Patronus?
Remus snorted lightly.
It's stupid. Voice in my head.
Ah,
Not like the normal voices, though. Usually it's someone I know.
maybe this time it was just you.
Remus thought about this. It made him feel funny. Sirius was still watching him, still stroking his arm. Remus remembered something else.
It's a wolf. My Patronus. I didn't want the others to know. I don't want them to think.
They'd never think badly of you, Mooney. They know you too well.
Do they, though? After today, I just feel so stupid. I got so caught up, I didn't know what to do. I just kept getting in deeper and deeper.
But you did the right thing in the end.
Sirius said, firmly, gripping him now.
That's all that matters.
He leaned forward and kissed Remus gently on the lips, a calming gesture.
You came back to us.
Remus looked down, lowering his voice to barely a whisper. He looked up at Sirius again, meeting those perfect blue eyes.
I came back to you.
Sirius kissed him again, harder, and did not stop for a long time.